iReal Pro, Jamie Aebersold tracks, Band in a Box. There are all sorts of ways these days that a music student can practice playing without depending on finding other folks to play with. It may not be as ideal as playing with others, but it definitely gets the job done, especially if you are all by yourself. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing some of the best play-along resources that are available and explain why I think some are better than others and how I would get the most out of them. So right off the bat, I do want to put a disclaimer that I think each one of these resources are worth utilizing. We live in an age where we can take advantage of technology and access to apps and programs that help us tackle our weaknesses a bit quicker. Also, some of the tracks or apps will be better for different levels of students and different types of learners. So really pay attention to what each of them have to offer and then make your own decision on which one might be best for you. With that being said, let's start it all off with iReal Pro. First of all, it's a super accessible app and you can find it on most platforms, your phone, tablet, or computer. Some of the features include changing the key and tempo of the playback track, having the ability to change out or customize the chords if you want to mess with the standard charts or even make your own for your own tunes. You can also organize set lists that are helpful for gigs or just grouping up the songs in your repertoire. When you do play along with the chart, it will highlight the part of the song to keep you on track if you need that help, which is handy for beginners. There are also a number of different grooves that you can mess with, from bossa nova to straight eights to a second line or even a tango. It has a built-in mixer that gives you the ability to switch out instruments to play along with and set their volume levels. So in case you're a pianist and you just want to practice with a bass and drum track, you can just pull the piano out. You can also switch out what kind of keyboard and bass sound you want to use, which is kind of cool. Now, the one feature that I feel is more recent that I just noticed is that you can turn on the option for the app to display chord diagrams during playback for guitar, piano, and even ukulele, which I thought was an interesting choice to add, but the more the merrier. This feature is specifically helpful for beginners, although after looking through some of the voicings they have, they are relatively basic. But if you want to get into some more voicings and understand how to put together seventh chords on piano or guitar, check out the videos I've already done on that subject, linked down in the description or above me, wherever it might be. Another handy feature on that app is that you can also choose to show the chord scale relationships during the playback, so you can practice improvising through the chart with that extra guide. All that comes with a $16 price tag, so I'd say it's pretty affordable for all those features. Now, the only real letdown I have for this app is that the sounds and grooves of the playback tracks are pretty basic and stiff. It gets the job done, but it definitely is lacking in the feel department. As a beginner, this app is incredibly convenient and affordable. Intermediate players will want to move on from this as a play-along resource, mainly because the feel of the tracks do sound stiff, and I personally feel like students need to start focusing on the subtleties of the sounds and feeling a solid groove to get the most out of their practice. iReal Pro is always useful in a pinch when on a gig if you don't know the song or are not as confident in your transposing on the spot when working with a singer. Special note though, you'll have to go to the iReal Pro forums to download all the charts you'll probably want to use, but it's pretty easy to grab those, so you won't have to worry about digging through posts. Next, let's go with Band in a Box. This program has a number of the same features as iReal Pro, like being able to manipulate charts, using a mixer to pull out instruments during playback if you want, and the ability to change tempo and keys and so forth. Now, I will say that this program is pretty thorough for the most part in their approach to getting better sounding tracks, namely by having a large recording catalog of real musicians playing real instruments. They also have a ton of different styles available to play with, including jazz, blues, rock, pop, and even bluegrass, among others. Band in a Box is available to use on both Windows computers and Macs. Now for the cons, the main program requires a computer to operate it. On top of that, they do have an app version, but it requires you to have the original program on a computer to even use it. Now, a lot of people have computers nowadays, but in terms of accessibility, I find this a hurdle for students who are looking to get right into the action with their practicing. The grooves and sounds are definitely better than iReal Pro, but some of them are way better than others. Next, I find that the program has almost too many options that you can manipulate, that it requires someone to really dig in to get the most out of it. When I looked at this photo on their website, it really put me off because there are a lot of windows with a lot of options to work with, which on one hand is nice to have, but I feel like it's overwhelming for the average student just trying to plug and play and get to practicing their instrument. Last of all, the price is a bit too expensive for the average student. The cheapest version starts at $130 and then goes up significantly from there, for other versions reaching up to $700. Now, I do understand why it would be priced that high with all the contributions of real musicians recording the instruments and someone programming all those features out, but again, that's a steep price for a beginner or even an intermediate player. I think there's almost too much you can do with this program, and that can be a problem when you are just trying to set up something just to play along with. It's definitely a step up from iReal Pro if you can afford it, and the program as a whole really sounds pretty solid. All levels of students could get a lot out of it if you feel up to the challenge of figuring out how to get around the program, and the fact that they use samples of real instruments played by real musicians helps set the musical environment up a lot more and is more satisfying to play along with for sure. All right, a good alternative to Band in a Box is the app SessionBand. This app is available for your phone or tablet and has similar features to the other programs, like a mixer to pull out drums, piano, or bass, the ability to create your own tracks, the ability to change the key of the whole chart, and has a number of styles that you can switch out. This is another program that has sound recordings of actual players, focusing on piano, drums, bass, and a horn, the one sound that I always mute. The recordings of the instruments sound really good in my opinion. They are recorded and mixed well, and I appreciate the attention to those details because it sets up a great musical environment to practice in. It has the right number of options that you can mess around with. To me, it seems like it's the Goldilocks of the bunch, as it has just enough of what you need without skimping out or giving you too much to figure out in order to use it. Now, the price is pretty solid as well. Each volume will cost you between $6 to $10. Now, there are no real glaring weaknesses in my opinion. It has everything you would need and a bit more without really getting too complicated. But I guess the only thing that I would maybe dock it down for is that all of the styles that they have are split up across different volumes, which in a way makes it end up kind of more convenient in the sense that you can get what you need for a lower price and the cost doesn't stack too fast. Each one of the volumes has a bunch of subset styles that should keep you satisfied for a while. Grouping all of the volumes together would definitely raise the price, and you might end up not using half of what's available. So the fact that they separate them helps the customer, in my opinion. I guess the only thing I would say that's lacking is the amount of programmed repertoire immediately available, unless you get Jazz Session Band 4, apparently, where you can download 150 standards for free that are ready to play along with. iReal Pro takes the cake in the fact that you have pretty much any standard at your fingertips, whereas SessionBand has a handful available for volumes 1 through 3, but you'll have to program a number of tunes yourself in order to play along with them. Overall, SessionBand is a legit step up from iReal Pro and more accessible than Band in a Box in both price and programming. Because of this, I probably would say this is my most preferred program to recommend to students. Now, of course, I've got to go over the OG Jamie Aebersold play-along tracks. Right out the gate, the tracks have a great feel provided by actual recordings of great players like Ron Carter, Kenny Barron, and Billy Hart, to name a few, which sets up a pretty ideal musical environment to shed to. There's a lot of variety available. For example, you can focus on specific jazz artists' repertoire, like those of Herbie Hancock, Sonny Rollins, and Horace Silver, among others. You can also work on specific musical devices like turnarounds, 251s, Coltrane changes, and so on. You can download each of the tracks through iTunes or a specific website, and then take them with you on your phone, tablet, or computer. Now, because these recordings are set in stone, you won't be able to change their keys or tempos. But at the end of the day, a lot of the tunes are already recorded in the keys and tempos you'll actually need to learn them in. Also, because the tracks have all of the instruments baked in it, if you are a pianist, bassist, or drummer, you're kind of out of luck because you can't pull any of those instruments out of the mix. Now, when it comes to the price, it ends up being kind of tough to absorb. You have to purchase each set of tunes separately, each one costing anywhere between 10 to 20 bucks each. So the cost racks up real fast as your repertoire grows relative to the other options I've talked about in this video. The Jamie Aebersold series has been around for a long time, I believe since 1967. So there's tons of resource material to look through and you're bound to find what you might need. Last but not least, I want to definitely mention YouTube as a resource. What's nice about YouTube is you should be able to find a lot of songs in a number of styles available that people share. What's also handy is that you can easily share tracks with anyone. I personally like how I can gather a bunch of the play-along tracks together and make a playlist, then share it with a student or a class of students and not have to worry about them having to spend any money that they may not have just to get something like iReal Pro or whatever. So they really don't have an excuse to not use it to practice with. Also, the fact that YouTube is free to use makes it the lowest point of entry out of all of these resources. Now, the one thing you do need is internet access, which I guess counts as the real price. Also, songs might not be in the key that you need to practice in, so you might have to dig deeper to get what you need. The quality of the tracks can range from pretty solid to kind of dumpy as well. So you're kind of dependent on what is available. You also don't have control over changing any parameter, tempo, key, or style, so you really have to rely on what someone decided to upload. Actually, I just realized that you could probably slow and speed it up because YouTube has the ability to speed up, whatever you're watching, twice as fast, 1.25 times as fast, or 3/4 speed or whatnot. So that works kind of like a workaround, but it's not as accurate as pulling the tempo specifically down to, specific tempo in iReal Pro or another program. Overall, I specifically like YouTube because it's got the lowest price point, so pretty much everyone has access to it. Now, if I were to put all these on a tier list, this is how I would personally rank all of these options. Starting in S tier, I would put SessionBand. It just has the best recording quality. I think the accessibility of actually using the program is pretty good. It's not too hard. And the price points. For the A tier, I would put the Jamie Aebersold tracks. Can't beat, some of the best, legendary players playing on the recordings and setting up probably the best musical environment you can play. The only thing that docks it from S tier is it ends up being expensive over a number of books you have to buy. B tier would be YouTube and iReal Pro, just because of the accessibility. It's still kind of up there, but because the sounds aren't that great, which again, I'm super, I draw a lot of importance on just the environment sounding as good as possible. That knocks it down. But the accessibility is really, really nice. And for C tier, I'm putting Band in a Box. It probably has some of the best sounds, but the price point really knocks it down. It's so out of reach for a number of people, especially when you're first starting out. It's a little too much to invest in the beginning. Maybe later on if you want. And again, that's up to you. But $130 as your starting point is a bit much. Again, this is just my opinion, and my opinion is mostly formed by my perspective on a resource's accessibility, flexibility, and price point. Take a deeper look into them yourself and find out which one resonates more for you. Regardless of what you choose, all of these are helpful tools to help set a musical environment for you to shed over. Ideally, you really want to be in a room with players around your level or better, but when you don't have that opportunity, these options are nice to have. Let me know how you would rate these programs in the comments below, and also if you have any other resources that you might suggest to other folks. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more tutorials in the near future. Take care.